And welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. A lot of news around Major League Baseball today as we ramp things up towards baseball's winter meetings next week. We will have live coverage for you guys all throughout the winter meetings next week, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, spam that heart in the chat if you're new here or if you've been around and enjoyed the stream. We appreciate all the support that you guys give us, so feel free to, spam that heart. It really does help us out. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN as well. Welcome in, Jordan. Welcome in, Derby. Appreciate you joining us right now. But as I said, there's a lot of news going around Major League Baseball. So without further ado, let's dig into some of it. We'll start with kind of the latest signings, very small. Braves are bringing back a couple of their own guys that they cut / non-tendered a week or two ago. They brought back Penn Murphy and Jackson Stevens, couple of minor arms that are going to be kind of shuttled between AAA and the big club. They're going to be 40-man roster type players. I don't think they're going to make a huge impact on their season this year, but a good depth signing for them. But the biggest signings we've had today are three of them. The Cincinnati Reds have added to their bullpen, bringing in the first big-time reliever this offseason. Emilio Pagan goes from the Minnesota Twins, 2 years, $16 million deal to the Cincinnati Reds. Reds really needed to bolster this pitching staff, both in the rotation and in that bullpen. I think there are probably one or two arms in the as far as the bullpen that they needed to bring in. This is one of the big pieces that they're going to bring in this offseason for that bullpen. Now, for that pitching rotation, remains to be seen if they're going to play at the top of the market for players like Yamamoto, for players like Blake Snell, things of that ilk. So curious to see what the next move is for the Cincinnati Reds. They, of course, had 6 big-time jumps up from the minor leagues last year. We'll see if they continue that progression or if they stall out a little bit. But in order to get this team to the next level as far as contention, they need to bring in some starting pitching that they traded away a couple of years ago in Luis Castillo and Tyler Mahle. Could be an interesting fit to see Tyler Mahle back in Cincinnati because he is a free agent. He won't be able to pitch until around the All-Star break. So keep your eyes peeled for what Cincinnati might have cooking. Mets then made the next 2 biggest signings of the day. Luis Severino goes from the New York Yankees to the New York Mets. Probably the bigger of the 2 signings that they made today. He agreed to a 1-year deal. Let me go ahead and pop that one up on the screen for you guys. It's a 1-year, $13 million deal, according to Feinsand, and Passan said there's another $2 million that they could get in, or that he could get in performance bonuses. So we'll see what those bonuses actually relate to. My guess is there's something to do with innings pitched. Luis Severino does have a lot of talent. The question is he able to stay healthy, and can he be effective for a 162-game season? Is he going to be a starter every single day? I think this fills in one of the back-end starting spots for that Mets rotation, but I think they're still going to bring at least one top-of-the-rotation starter in. And if I had to put money on it, I would say it's going to be Yamamoto. If it's not him, then probably a guy like Blake Snell. Somebody at the top of the rotation to accompany Kodai Senga is desperately what this New York Mets team needs. Remember, they were looking to kind of retool things in 2024. That's kind of what we're seeing right now. And then they're going to really push hard to put the pedal down to the metal all the way down or once they get to 2025. So remember, Alonso's going to be a free agent after this season. If they get a long-term deal done for him currently, that'd be fantastic, but we shall see. Appreciate you guys joining us again. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Certainly does help us out, but those are kind of the top two items. The third one is going to be the Mets' Joey Wendell. Gets a major league deal, $2 million range. He's kind of a utility type infielder, so this kind of gives them some depth at all of their middle infield spots and on the hot corner. We'll see what happens with their infield going forward, but Lindor, of course, penciled in there every day at shortstop. You got McNeil penciled in there every day at second base. They, of course, have their prospect they brought up to play third. We'll see, what the actual playing time breaks down for Wendell is here, but I think this gives them some insurance versus some injuries. So Mets were really thin as far as their bench last year. This is kind of a good depth move. I'm not saying this moves the needle at all for them. I'm not saying this gets them another win or two. I'm just saying if they do have an injury, they at least have some serviceable guys that they can plug in there. The big-time free agent signings that we saw a year ago in Justin Verlander, Carlos Correa, and then, of course, backed out of that. We're not going to see something quite like that aside from the starting pitching market. They're said to be in the market for a guy like Cody Bellinger. I'm not necessarily buying it, at least not at the moment. I think next year is when they could really splurge for guys like Juan Soto on the free agent market. Position player market's going to be significantly better next year, and so that's when I think the Mets really go full bore into free agency. But this year it's all about the starting pitchers. There's a wealth of them out there, but there's even more teams out there and more openings for those starters. So pretty much most of the starting pitchers out there on the market are going to do well. Now, as far as the biggest news of the day has to come from the trade front, is that we're finally starting to see some development in the Dylan Cease talks. It sounds like they're actually exchanging names, and they might be getting this thing done before we get to the winter meetings. In case you guys are not familiar, winter meetings are going to start Sunday night. That will be the announcement of the Hall of Fame committee, or the ERA committee Hall of Fame ballot. We'll see who ultimately gets in, and then the meetings get started in earnest anyway on Monday. So make sure you guys are live with us on Sunday evening as we kind of break down all the latest rumors for all teams around Major League Baseball. We'll kind of get you up to date on all the top free agents, where the trade talk stands on all of the different guys that are trade targets out there. Glasnow, Burns, Adames, Soto. There's so many to count out there right now. The trade market is going to be hot, and we're starting to see that with Dylan Cease. Now, the rumors today are that the Atlanta Braves are one of the finalists for him. I was a little bit surprised that they might have been on the periphery of the negotiations originally, but I think they really kind of pushed their chips to the middle here for Dylan Cease because they missed out on their first target, Aaron Nola. They missed out on their second target, Sonny Gray, and now they're looking at Dylan Cease saying, hey, we can't keep having this ball keep rolling down the hill and gain momentum like we've seen with the San Francisco Giants over the last few years. They just couldn't get anybody to agree to a deal there, and now the Giants are stuck holding a bag full of money with nobody willing to take it. So, maybe things could change this year for the Giants, for the San Francisco Giants. Giants fans, I know, are hoping to get one of Yamamoto or Ohtani. Frankly, I'll be shocked if either one of them sign there. I would say they're probably fourth or fifth best as far as the best option for either of those teams to sign. But Ohtani, I think, has a wealth of teams that are obviously interested in him. Dodgers is the heavy favorite there. I would be a little bit surprised if he doesn't go there, but the other teams that are said to be right in there are the Chicago Cubs and the Texas Rangers. For Yamamoto, I would pencil in the New York Mets as the team there, but it seems like the New York Yankees have pretty much all their chips in on him as well. So it's very rare that we see both New York teams go after the same free agent, the same trade target. Really doesn't work out for either one of the teams. One of the teams who does win ultimately pays more for the guy, and it doesn't usually work out best for the long-term financial flexibility of that team. The team that misses out on him gets pushed on to page 6, loses the war in New York, etc., etc. So it usually doesn't work out best. That's why I think there's kind of a gentleman's agreement between the two teams. Hey, we'll go after our guys, we'll go after those guys, and just kind of stay out of each other's way. But I don't think there's anything, handshake agreement or anything like that. I just think that's how they prefer to do things in New York, kind of an unspoken thing. We saw the interview with Steve Phillips, a former GM of the New York Mets on MLB network today kind of saying as much, that they kind of stayed out of each other's way, and very rarely when they did make trades together or go after the same free agents, it very rarely worked out. So we'll see what happens with them going after the same guy, Yamamoto. Yamamoto, though, I think is one of the rarest free agents out there right now. 25-year-old starting pitcher, very likely could win the Cy Young in his first season in the big leagues. We'll see what type of impact he has, but I'm expecting a front of the rotation starter, a number one, number two at the worst. Last year we're looking at Kodai Senga, 1 at the best, 3, 4 at the worst. So I think you got a lot higher floor here with Yamamoto. He's younger, so he should be able to adapt to playing in the U.S. a lot quicker than some of the older free agents that have come over from Japan. So we'll see, just how quickly he settles in and how comfortable he gets with his new team early on. Because he's only 25, I think that's going to work in his favor. Plus, you have to look at the injury issues that come over, or that come with getting an older pitcher. They don't really apply to a guy that's only 25 years old, who's basically won the NPB's version of the Cy Young over there 3 consecutive years. That hasn't been done in over 60 years. Not Ohtani, not Darvish, not Tanaka, not Kuroda. None of those guys did that, but this guy did. We'll see what kind of pitcher he is once he gets over to the big leagues, but I will be shocked if the Giants ultimately win him. Have you seen anything on the Juan Soto trades? Welcome back, Sub-Zero. Appreciate you for joining us once again. But as far as the Juan Soto talks, those have also intensified. I'm guessing because the winter meetings being right around the corner, we're starting to see what we usually see every year up until, say, the Friday, Saturday before the winter meetings. A lot of trade talk start to kick up because they want to get those talks set so that once they get to the winter meetings, they can act quickly. The market moves quickly with GMs all being in the same place, so you have more familiarity with the teams that you're trying to deal with by getting some of that work done before you get there. So as far as what's the update for Juan Soto, it seems like the New York Yankees and Padres are at least exchanging names. One of the players that's actually been mentioned is Anthony Volpe and Jason Dominguez. I'd be shocked if Volpe is a part of the deal. I'd go ahead and scratch that idea off the list. If you're a Padres fan, it's not happening. But I would not be surprised if the Martian is the big piece coming back to the Padres. Position players usually return very well from a Tommy John type injury. That's what Dominguez has right now. He would be kind of the Juan Soto fill-in once he's actually healthy. I think he'd be a great get. But that's not going to be all to get it done. I think they're going to have to trade from, some of that prospect pool, maybe even trade one of their starters that they don't want to get rid of to kind of get this deal done. So maybe a King could go back the other way. But let us know in the comment section where you think Juan Soto ultimately goes. We did an exercise the other day where we went through all the teams around MLB and just kind of went through the viability of each team being a destination for Juan Soto. We kind of settled on 2 being very likely candidates, that being the New York Yankees and Seattle Mariners. But there were a couple teams who at least could make some type of a deal for him. But let us know in the comment section where you think he's going to go. Hit that heart button, spam us that 100% if you wouldn't mind. It certainly does help us out. Got about 15 of you guys watching right now. So thank you guys for joining us. Are the Yankees still involved in Bellinger or Kevin Kiermaier? Bellinger, yes, but I think their priority right now is getting Yamamoto done. Yamamoto, though, is going to take until after the winter meetings. He is not expected to sign during the winter meetings. He's going to be slow and deliberate with this process because not even his own agent was expecting this much interest, as far as this much interest anyway, in his client. But with the 25-year-old starting pitcher, with as much starting pitching is needed on the market right now, it's not surprising to see it, at least from an outside viewer looking in. I'm a little bit surprised that they weren't expecting it. I mean, he's 25 years old, won the Sawamura Award 3 years in a row. I would not be surprised to see this take all the way up until the deadline. Japanese players have 45 days once they're posted to get a deal done. That deadline is January 4th. So am I expecting it to take that long? No, I'm expecting it to probably get done before Christmas, but I would be shocked if we see something announced at the winter meetings that he's going somewhere. Now, Ohtani, the big update for him is that the market might be moving behind the scenes. You're starting to see that a lot of guys are starting to talk, not necessarily the reporters themselves, but some of the guys who are at least plugged in at certain places are saying this team might be in, this team might be out. For instance, Harold Reynolds today on Hot Stove for MLB Network, not exactly the guy I would go to for the most reliable information, but he does have some very unique sources. And he wouldn't say anything at all as far as, what teams were interested, etc. But the one comment he did say that I caught was that Harold believes this thing might actually be rounding to some type of conclusion here in the next week. So he's hearing from some team somewhere that the conversations are getting that far advanced. Now, what that could mean any number of things. The years might be starting to get narrowed down a little bit, the teams might be whittled down a little bit. But as far as actual reporting from some of the most trusted national reporters, John Heyman, John Paul Morosi, Ken Rosenthal, Nightingale, any one of the national level reporters, Joel Sherman, we have yet to hear any smoke coming from any one of them really as far as the market for Shohei Ohtani, and I think that's by design. I don't think Shohei wants anything getting out in the media as far as teams he's talking to, places he's visiting, money he's looking for, what's important to him, geography if it's important or not. I don't think he wants any of that in the headlines, and that's kind of why this is one of the more unique free agencies in all of professional sports. How often can you say the most important star in your sport is going to be a free agent and nobody has any idea who he's talking to, what's most important to him in free agency, where he's actually thinking about going? Does geography play an important factor since he is coming over from Japan and played on the West Coast for the majority or for his entire career so far? Or is winning now the top priority since he's struggled so mightily out there in Anaheim to even get to the playoffs? So we'll see what happens with Shohei, but it sounds like there's an undercurrent that something could be moving in the direction of a deal at some point when we get to the winter meeting. So let us know in the comments section where you think he ultimately goes. Spam that heart if you don't mind as well. Hit the heart if you think he's going to go back to or go to the LA Dodgers, the favorite. Hit the 100 if you think he's going to go to the Texas Rangers. Or throw another emote in there and let us know where you think where you think he's going to ultimately go. $500 million for Ohtani. Now that's a good question, Sub-Zero. I think the market for him, say a year ago, probably would have said 12 years, $600 million. I think we were looking easily at a $50, $55, $60 million contract per year and at least 10 years on that deal. Now, because he's injured, I'm not saying that he's going to, that he's, out for, pitching forever. I'm saying that he's going to not pitch at least this season, and because of that, we're going to see at least a little bit of a hit on the overall money. I still think he's going to do fantastic in free agency. I think the most conservative projections have him around 10 years, $440 million. Eno Saris did that article on The Athletic if you want to check that one out. But if I had to bet how much he's going to ultimately get, I would say it's easily over $500 million. Even if he got, say, $75 million, that's roughly what he would bring in promotions, jersey sales, ticket sales. That's what economists have come down to as far as a number for what he's worth every year, just in sales, ticket sales. Not even worth how much he's winning on the field, but just how much money he brings in with Ohtani being signed. So with that being said, is he going to get 75 per year? No, it's not happening. That'd be almost double what any player's ever gotten before in Major League Baseball. He is two players in one, don't get me wrong, but no owner, I think, in their right mind would sign a player for that type of money, especially considering as good a player as he is, he does come with significant injury issues as well. So what do I think he could sign for? I would expect somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 to $555 million over the course of 10 to 12 years. I don't think he's going to get quite to 600. I think if he was healthy, I think you'd get another $50 million out of a team. But right now, I think you're settling somewhere between 500 and 550. As far as the years, I think it's just up to the team how many years they want to tack on to lower that cap hit, the impact of him every single season. Now, you could pay him until he's into his age 45 year and really decrease that number down into the low 40s per season. But I don't think Ohtani would go for something like that. I think he wants the highest AAV ever, and I think he wants to have the full impact of that type of signing, not have it watered down because the AAV was spaced out over 15 years. I think we're going to see a deal in that 500 for 10 or 550 for 12 range. So as far as where, you think he's going to go to the Blue Jays? I don't know about Soto or Yamamoto. Well, the Blue Jays are a very interesting team. We'll touch on some of the trade rumors around them in just a moment, Jordan. But as far as the teams I would expect to be heavily interested in Ohtani are the same we've talked about the last week or so. Texas Rangers, outside of the Dodgers and the Cubs, are probably one of the best teams out there. They have the case that they just won the World Series, so it'll be very convincing of an argument to make to say, hey, we at least won the World Series. We continue to go to the postseason. etc., are figuring to go to the postseason. We're going to spend. Signing you doesn't mean we're going to stop spending either. The Rangers are trying to push their chips to the middle right now and create the first true dynasty that we've seen since the Yankees in the late 90s. So maybe they're the first team that wins the first ever World Series back-to-back since the Yankees, but let us know in the comment section where you think Ohtani ultimately signs. Blue Jays don't have enough money for the top three spending teams, Mets, Dodgers, and Giants. I think that all three of those teams are going to have the highest dollar figure out there, except for maybe the Mets. I think the Mets are probably a year away from playing in that type of pool for free agents outside of a starting pitcher. Ohtani could be a starting pitcher there, but I'm not sure that he wants to go to New York at least this year because they're not going to contend this year. Blue Jays have the richest owners in MLB. I mean, we've seen how much, like all these owners around professional sports, the majority of them have significant disposable income. There's a few of them that have conglomerates that come up with the money and, hey, this is our dream to own a team, and that's what they do. So they don't have to, they don't really have that extra money laying around. But with that being said, it's professional sports. It's Major League Baseball. If a team wants to sign a player, they can figure something out. And just like I said, Ohtani is worth $75 million just in dollars every single season to whatever team he signs with. So it's going to be a net positive wherever he signs ultimately. Are the Rangers interested in trading for Corbin Burnes? He's only 29. Yes, the Corbin Burnes trade talk is starting to pick up as well. As far as the teams that are expected to be in on him, the St. Louis Cardinals have been said to have interest at one point, but I would expect the Dodgers to be the front runner there. They need some starting pitching. Blake Snell sounds like a fit for the Dodgers as well, but the Texas Rangers are currently looking for a starting pitcher to put in that rotation because DeGrom is out this year. Burnes is only on one-year deal, and they could get some compensation back if they lose him in free agency. Now, obviously, you'd love for things to work out and be able to sign him to an extension and he stays a member of that team for the foreseeable future, but you want that security of that draft pick if he decides to sign elsewhere if things don't work out this season. So we'll see where he ultimately goes. I would expect the Rangers to be in there along with a bunch of other teams before the trade deadline. That was one of the pieces that was bandied about to a bunch of different teams. There was never really any traction. The Dodgers weren't really shopping him, but there was at least some conversation around Burnes' name, especially with the arbitration issues that he had before the season began, the animosity that existed at that time between management and player. I don't think that's gotten any better. Woodruff is now gone. Brewers are in a little bit of a rebuild/retool right now. They always want to be in contention. I think that's going to be a very difficult sell to their fan base right now, especially considering, that they have some really great outfield prospects, but they have no starting pitching coming. They have some good relievers. I could expect them to move a reliever or two this offseason as well. But Willy Adames, I think, is the other piece for Milwaukee that could go elsewhere. Thank you for hitting those hearts, spamming that confetti. Really appreciate that. Good to see lots of people in here. Couldn't agree with you more, Jordan. Got about 19 of you guys with us right now, so feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know what your favorite team is and some moves you're expecting to see. We're going to go a little bit longer tonight, a little bit some news coming out of Major League Baseball today, and then, of course, we'll touch on some of the trade talk, and then we'll get into some trades tonight as well. As we get closer and closer to the winter meetings, we're going to have to nail down what type of return players like Juan Soto could get from the New York Yankees or from the Mariners. We're going to have to nail down the return the White Sox could get for a trade for Dylan Cease from the Braves, from the Orioles, from the Dodgers. Rangers, of course, just won the World Series, but they're not going to take their foot off the gas anytime soon. Astros are in a little bit of a limbo type of situation right now. They're going to be good for one more season at minimum, but then free agency starts to get on them. We'll see if they're able to maintain their winning ways going forward. Joe Espada takes over as their manager. Are they going to continue to be one of the beasts in the American League? I have my questions about whether or not they're going to be able to maintain their level of success with how poor their farm system has become and their lack of willingness to spend money on their own free agents, let alone outside free agent talent. So let us know in the comments section what team you're paying attention to this offseason. Sub-Zero, my Christmas list as a Yankee would be Soto, trade for Dylan Carson, and a trade for a few pitchers. I'm guessing you're saying Dylan Cease. Okay, so for Soto, he's going to be a great fit, I think, for a bunch of different teams. He's a unique fit, though, for the New York Yankees. He does give them another star, but they do they do need an outfielder. They need to get more athletic out there. Soto is more athletic than Stanton, don't get me wrong, but is he really something different than they already have on their roster? They've had a lumbering outfield for the past 2 or 3 years. The trade for Joey Gallo, obviously the most significant move that didn't work out. But they've tried this strategy before. I'm not saying Juan Soto is Joey Gallo. I'm just saying that type of large human that's out there, not necessarily a 40, 50 base stolen base guy. Juan Soto still has some speed out there. High on base percentage guy, walks more than he strikeouts, so he is a great player for that. But I do have my skepticism about the fit for the New York Yankees more specifically. If things don't work out for Juan Soto in New York, he can easily sign across town with the Mets, who I think are going to be in there hard for him next offseason. You're not going to be able to sign him to an extension, and it's going to cost you one of your best prospects that you've had in the last 10 years in Jason Dominguez, plus another piece. I'm just not sure if it's worth the cost for the Yankees. I think they need to be focusing on starting pitching like Yamamoto or some other starters that are out there on the market. If I were the Yankees, I would have done what the Cardinals did and just really go out there and try to get a bunch of different starters to fill my rotation. I would have gone after different guys if I was the New York Yankees. We've seen how things worked out for Lance Lynn in New York. We've seen how things worked out for Sonny Gray. I would expect them to go after some other pieces, but if I were them, I would go that route rather than the big hulking guy to play in your outfield or the Cody Bellingers of the world. I don't think that's going to happen, Jordan. I know you like to have fun with those crazy ideas, but I really don't think that's going to happen. But let's kind of flip over to some of the trade ideas here. All right. Let's see. Let me clear this off real quick. Let's go over to the prospect page first. Top 100 prospects in all of baseball. These are guys that you can really expect to have some good quality out of these type of players. So for a Juan Soto type trade, let's go ahead and pencil in the New York Yankees and the Padres first. Yankees, Padres. Juan Soto, of course, has 23.8 surplus value. So what could we get from the Yankees that's around 23 plus? Well, they're said to be looking for at least 2 top 100 pieces coming back in a Juan Soto deal. Jason Dominguez, because of the injury right now, I think his value is actually a little bit lower than 21.2, but I'm expecting him to come back fully healthy. Let's go ahead and plug in Dominguez as the piece coming back to the Padres in this type of a deal. Now let's flip over to the prospect pool for the New York Yankees before we go further. Jason Dominguez qualifies as a top 100. He's at 74. So what else could they ultimately get? Drew Thorpe has been one of the names that's been connected to the Padres in those Juan Soto talks. Let's go ahead and plug in Thorpe, another top 100 guy. I think the value here is a lot closer than what it appears right here. So looking at this type of a deal, since the Yankees and Padres are throwing around some names, it looks like the Yankees are getting a little bit short-shafted here. I think they're, in my estimation though, when you're talking about a talent of Juan Soto, it's going to take something like this, a bit of an overpay to get it done. Seattle is desperate for that type of power in their outfield. They really had kind of a strikeout king out there in Teoscar Hernandez last year. They, of course, no longer have him on the roster. They jettison Eugenio Suarez, another strikeout king on their roster. Bringing in Soto really solves a lot of their strikeout issues, gives them some thump in that lineup, and gives them some protection for Julio Rodriguez. So you're going to have to overpay a little bit to outbid the Seattle Mariners. So if you want to get a guy like Juan Soto, I think this is what's going to have to happen if you're a New York Yankee fan. Brendan Donovan and Dylan Carlson from the Cardinals would be nice for the Yankees. I would agree. I just don't think there's any way Donovan moves from the Cardinals. Carlson, I think, is a little bit more likely. He's kind of lost a little bit of time out there in center there with Nootbaar. So I think Carlson could be had, but I think this is more shades of the Harrison Bader trade that they made with Jordan Montgomery a year and a half ago, I should say. I think that was a little bit of a mistake at the time, obviously, looking back in hindsight. Even at the time, though, I was shocked that they did it, giving up a starting pitcher for a fourth outfielder. It just didn't make sense. There's clearly a window of opportunity for the Rangers to start a dynasty. The Rangers will push all in for Shohei Ohtani. I also believe our farm system is strong enough to trade for Soto. I believe the Rangers farm system is strong enough to trade for literally any piece that they want to go after. It's just a matter of what piece do they deem worthy of that type of investment. As far as Shohei Ohtani, Rangers ownership has already shown that they're willing to go big for that type of free agent. You look back at Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney, giving the qualifying offer to Martin Perez last year. They are willing to spend money. Ohtani is the type of piece that really would have cemented them as a front runner in the American League around the trade deadline. Obviously, they didn't get a trade done for Ohtani, but now that he's in the free agent pool, the Dodgers are expected to be the favorite there. But like I said, nobody really knows what teams he's talking to, the numbers he's discussing, what's most important to him, how important is geography as well. All of things are all wild cards right now. And as I said, we're expecting some type of an agreement. At least some of the whispers around the industry tell us that some type of an agreement could come together at the winter meetings. The teams that are said to be, favorites for him are the Dodgers, of course, Texas Rangers, Cubs. On the periphery, you got teams like the Padres, the Giants, the Mariners, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Braves as well. So we'll see where Ohtani ultimately goes. But for your first part of your statement there, Mr. Trevino, I agree with you on Shohei. The Rangers will push for him pretty significantly. I think that's part of the holdup in the Jordan Montgomery talks, because it sounds like the Jordan Montgomery talks have pretty much gotten down to the nitty-gritty. We could see an agreement signed even tomorrow sending Jordan Montgomery back to Texas. It sounds like he's going to get a little bit less than what Aaron Nola got, which is absolutely terrifying if you're a Rangers fan, because that's a lot of money. And it sounds like it's going to be for the 5-6 year number. So 5-6 years, around 150 is what it sounds like the numbers for Jordan Montgomery are. He's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but dang, that's a lot of money for Jordan Montgomery. Who would have thought 6 months ago that he would be worth that type of money? That's just how quickly his stock elevated with that run in the postseason for Texas. But it sounds like the numbers might be getting down to around that 5-6 year number for 125, 150, a little bit under what Aaron Nola got. That coming from John Heyman in his reporting on the Bleacher Report today. You guys can check out his live that he did earlier today during the BR walk-off. So we'll see what happens for Shohei and the numbers that come in for him. Jordan Montgomery, of course. But for the second part of your statement there, you believe the farm system is strong enough to trade for Soto. I agree, but I don't think they're going to be trading for an outfielder right now. I mean, you look at their outfield. You already have Adolis Garcia. He's locked in as your right fielder probably for the next 2 to 3 years, I believe. After that crazy run that he had in the postseason, he would have been the guy before the postseason started that I would have said, hey, this is the guy you trade to maximize your value, and then you bring in Wyatt Langford to play his spot. Now with the postseason that he had, he is a DFW hero. He is not going anywhere. And so he's going to be the right fielder as long as he wants to be there for the Texas Rangers, at least for the next 3-4 years in my estimation. You look at center field, that's Leody Taveras. They could put Evan Carter in there as well. Left field, they have Wyatt Langford or Evan Carter. They have a little bit of depth there. They could go the free agent market again and bring in, some low-ticket guys like Robbie Grossman and Travis Jankowski again, just to round it out. I think then they would have a surplus of an outfielder. I don't think Adolis is available now, but Leody might be the guy that could go elsewhere. Center fielders with great defense that are starting to show some life with their bat. That's really where things start to move on the trade market. We saw the trade years ago for Adam Eaton going to the Washington Nationals, how much that cost them to be able to bring in Adam Eaton with, 2, 3, 4 years left of control. It got him a starting pitcher in Lucas Giolito, a prospect anyway. They also got Ronaldo Lopez, who was a great prospect at that time, and Dane Dunning. By the way, all three are still in the big leagues. So that tells you, what might be most valuable on the trade market right now if you're a Rangers fan. But then they also have Ezekiel Duran that they could flex around or trade for a reliever or a starting pitcher like Corbin Burns or a reliever like David Bednar. Curious to see which direction that they ultimately decide to go with the trade market. We saw at the trade deadline, starting pitching, they really needed to bring in some starters because that's where they were faltering, and that's what they addressed. Now with the starting rotation, hopefully coming into the year healthy, I still think they're going to try to bring back Jordan Montgomery. I still think they're going to try to bring in a buy low type of candidate like Jake Odorizzi, like Martin Perez, Tyler Mahle, something like that. just to kind of give them some depth options down the line. And remember, DeGrom will be coming back around the trade deadline, maybe a little bit after that. So we'll see where the Rangers decide to put their trade chips in. The Oakland A's are moving to Vegas. Did you guys see this article, by the way, where they talked about the Oakland B's? There's a kind of a semi-pro team out there that's kind of taking a crack at the Oakland A's by creating a team called the Oakland B's that will actually play in their old ballpark. That's fascinating to me that Oakland is that salty about it still. I understand they're losing their team, but come on, you don't support them anyway. I understand the difficulties to support them with how poor the play is on the field, but they're still your local team. You got to root for them at some point to at least get their ducks in a row, I guess, but I don't know. Rumors are out there that the Rays are willing to trade Arozarena. What do you think about that? Could they just be listening to offers? I would go ahead and put that one in the next offseason category as far as a trade. I think they're more just testing the waters to see what type of interest there is out there. He's making, I believe, $9 million this coming season. But we saw an interesting piece from MLB Network today that Isaac Paredes, the third baseman, could be the guy that might get a better value in a trade right now. I'm not expecting either one of those guys to be traded. However, I would expect Tyler Glasnow to go. I think he's gone before Christmas. Manny Margot is another guy who's not exactly integral to their team right now. He's making a little bit of money. He could be gone by Christmas as well. But the Rays, if they get the right offer for Arozarena, I wouldn't rule it out completely. But next year is where I think that type of move happens a little bit easier. And for Paredes, sounds like that the Rays might actually be willing to at least listen on him. But I'm not saying anything will happen there. I'm just curious to see what type of return he might command because he has a great eye at the plate, plays the hot corner, 30 home run power, walks more than strikes out. He's fantastic. We'll see what happens with the Rays going forward. But Glasnow, I believe, is gone. I think Arozarena is going to be next year, not right now. Welcome back, Sarah. I want Glasnow on my cards. I think every team right now and their mother wants Glasnow on their team. He is a great pitcher. He's kind of gotten the injury issues hopefully behind him. Showed that he was able to finish the year healthy. I'm curious to see, what team trades for him, what they give up, and are they able to negotiate a long-term deal. I don't think they'll be able to get a long-term deal done, so he'll probably go to free agency next offseason. That's why trading him before the season starts, if you're a team trying to acquire him, is vital, because if you get that deal done, then you can get some compensation should he leave in free agency next year. So we'll see what happens around Glasnow. Maybe the Cards go out there and get another starter and then flip Matz or whoever. We were talking about Matz last night as being the odd guy out if they bring in another starting pitcher. But there's a lot of trade talk right now. Dylan Cease, Juan Soto, those markets are certainly heating up. We'll see what happens with Shane Bieber. It sounds like that market is also getting a little hotter. There were some connections anyway recently about the Cleveland Guardians and Jorge Soler. First team I've really seen him connected to. I know a lot of people speculated that one, but now we're starting to at least see some reporting that he's at least having some interest in the Guardians, and that his agent, of course, is still fielding offers. It's still very early in the process, but that the Guardians are one of many teams interested in his client. So, Joey Wendell to the Mets, 1-year deal. Yes, Mets get a little bit more versatile with Wendell. So, appreciate you guys joining tonight. If you guys want to hit that like and subscribe, I'd really, really, really appreciate that. Appreciate those of you who have been spamming that confetti in the chat as well. Winter meetings do start on Sunday. We'll do a live for you guys during the winter meetings on Sunday evening anyway, and kind of break down all the latest trade chatter before we get into the winter meeting. So we shall see. Monday is the official start, but Sunday night is really when the teams are still pulling in. The Hall of Fame announcement, all those kinds of things. So let us know in the comments section, what trades you're keeping an eye out for, what players you're keeping an eye out for, and we'll kind of get into some of those details on our live that Sunday. So feel free to follow us over on X as well, Upside SN, Facebook, Upside Sports Network as well. But in case you guys are curious, let's kind of do another trade here. Let's go ahead and do the Dylan Cease trade here. We'll do the White Sox, and let's go ahead and do the Orioles. Orioles have some great prospects to trade. We'll go with those two to start. Dylan Cease, really high value, obviously has 2 years left to control. Orioles desperately need some starting pitching. If I had to guess one team that needs starting pitching outside of the Dodgers more is going to be the Baltimore Orioles. We saw the difficulties they had managing in that playoff series against the Texas Rangers. Bringing in a guy like Dylan Cease could help them. Dylan Cease did get lit up, though, last year, and he got lit up by Texas as well. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get back to being that 2.2 ERA type guy, but he has that potential. He's still very young. He's only 28 years old, 2 years left to control, and even with that 4+ ERA this past season, I think he would still be a boost for that Baltimore Orioles rotation. I think this year was more of a blip on the radar more than anything else, but I'm expecting him to probably get into the mid-3s as far as his ERA next year, but we'll see what type of return he can command. Eduardo Rodriguez, I agree, would be a nice fit. He actually was connected at the trade deadline to the Baltimore Orioles before the trade was made to the Dodgers, ultimately turning that one down, deciding he wanted to stay with the Tigers because you'd have the chance to start every day. There wasn't necessarily that guarantee if he goes to the Dodgers. So Rodriguez should do very well on this free agent market. If you actually look at the numbers for Eduardo Rodriguez and Jordan Montgomery, they're very, very similar players. Of course, the playoff performance for Montgomery boosts his value even higher. But don't be surprised if Eduardo Rodriguez gets a 5-year, 125 type of free agent contract. We saw him have a good year with the Boston Red Sox that turned it into a 5-year, $100 million deal with an opt-out. Maybe this is another step in the right direction for him as far as the total value of a deal. John, how does the posting for Yamamoto work? He seems to be an intriguing free agent to consider, especially at only 25 years old. So, as far as posting, the team posts the player. Players from Japan have 45 days in order to negotiate a contract with a team. Part of that or a certain percentage of that contract will be used as a posting fee. Now, the player will still get the full value of their deal. So, for instance, say they get a 5-year, $100 million deal, just to keep the numbers simple here. That $100 million deal, a $10 million posting fee would then be paid to the team, not out of that 100, but an additional 10 on top of that. So, kind of keep your eyes open for what could happen with Yamamoto. But as far as the biggest factor in his free agency is that he's only 25 years old. So, there's not a lot of free agents on the market that ever get there at 25. In fact, there are very few. Juan Soto might be the next one that at least gets close. So keep your eyes peeled for what his free agency is next year. But Yamamoto is going to do fantastic. I think Ohtani's going to get the biggest value of contract, obviously, in that $500 to $550 million range. I think Yamamoto gets second, probably in that $200 million range for 8 years or so. So it'd probably take him into his age 33, age 34 season. Jordan Montgomery is awesome. I miss him on my Cardinals. Couldn't agree with you more. One of the more underrated pitchers traded at the deadline, or even in baseball at the trade deadline, and everybody just seems to be just kind of praising him based on the performance that he gave in the postseason for the Texas Rangers. He was great before that, though. I mean, he was one of their most consistent starters when the entire rotation and pitching staff really blew up down the stretch. He was one of the more consistent pieces there. Dane Dunning, who led them in innings, really blew up in August and early September before settling down. Nathan Eovaldi was great in the first half, had injuries, and then really didn't pitch well the entire second half until he got to the postseason. Jordan Montgomery really earned himself the contract he's about to sign. My expectation is he goes back to Texas, probably in that 5-year, $125 million range, maybe 6 years, $140. So that's what I'm expecting to see for the numbers for Jordan Montgomery. Let me know in the comment section what type of deal you guys think he's going to sign, and where do you think he's going to sign. But as for my expectation, I'm expecting Jordan Montgomery probably to get done here in the next couple of days before we get to the winter meetings. Shohei Ohtani, I'm expecting to happen at the winter meeting. So let us know in the comment section where you think they're going to go. Feel free to subscribe. We're going to post a few more videos before we get to the winter meetings, and then we're going to have a whole slew of them ready to go once free agency does get going in high gear at the winter meetings. 6 years, $150. You think he's going to sign the Freddie Freeman deal from a couple years ago? Okay. That's not a bad guess, Sarah. That's kind of what the rumors were from John Heyman today. What he was hearing on the market was that Texas was the team that he was going to ultimately sign with, but that the market for him was just a little south of Aaron Nola. Nola signed that, 7-year, $172 million deal. So 150 would be a little bit beneath that, a little bit higher AAV. So maybe that ultimately is the number he signs for. So we'll see, where Montgomery ultimately comes in at, and see how close we were. But as far as where we are here, we were discussing what the Orioles could ultimately deal for Dylan Cease, since those talks have certainly picked up. Let's go ahead and flip over to the Orioles farm system. The top farm system in all of baseball. I would not expect Jackson Holliday to be a part of this deal. I would not expect Cowser to be a part of this deal either. That's when we get into the Hurstead, the Mayo, the Basayo, Ortiz type of range for a Dylan Cease type of trade. So let's see what it could take. I think Westberg is another guy who might be a good piece here, but I don't think he's going to go there. I think they're going to spin off some pieces that haven't really worked out yet, like DL Hall, if they go off of their major league roster. So let's go ahead and start with Kjerstad. To the White Sox. They have a hole in their rotation already once Cease does go. So there's DL Hall. Then you could get into some of these lower level prospects here. Let's see here. Let me go to minors. There we go. Mayo, I think, is a little too high of a value there. They're going to want some pitching, so we'll go ahead and throw in Povich. Let's go ahead and throw in Lord. Remember the deal that the White Sox just made with the Braves. They are not afraid of going for bulk as well. So kind of expect something like that as well. So here's kind of a 4-for-1 type of a deal that the Orioles could put together. Headlined by DL Hall and Kjerstad. I think this would be a great deal. I think it'd probably cost a little bit more, though, because of the teams that are interested in Dylan Cease. Talking about the Dodgers and the Braves. Dodgers have a great farm system. Braves pretty much would have to give up their top level of their farm system right now. That would pretty much gut what's left of their farm system. I'm not sure if they're willing to do that, which might push them down a little bit. Plus, the prospects are a little bit better from both the Dodgers and the Orioles to choose from. So we'll see what happens there. Cards are wanting Matsui. Makes sense. They need some relief help as well with Jordan Hicks being moved, Stratton being moved. They have some holes back there. Poor performance, injury. Helsey last year back was their closer at the beginning of the year. Had some injury issues, poor performance, etc. Will he post this year? I'm not sure. I believe he will, though. We saw a bunch of guys posted in the last 24 to 48 hours. Imanaga, Yamamoto, of course, was last week. Young Ho Lee, I believe is his name, outfielder, also was posted. A couple other players from the KBO were posted. The difference between the posting systems for the Japanese players and the Korean ones, Japanese have 45 days to come to a deal, whereas the Korean players only have 30. So the window's a little bit tighter there. So winter meetings could be, the feeding ground for one of them. How about Glass now to the Cards for Matz, Carlson, and Cash? That's actually not a bad idea. I think that was one of the ideas we floated by yesterday. Let's kind of check it out, though. Cardinals and Rays. Majors. There's Matz. And Carlson to the Rays for Glass now. All right, so the trade that you just discussed there, Sarah, that's about what it would look like, plus Cash going to the Cardinals as well. I'm not sure the Rays would want to give up Cash, but I do think it would cost a little bit extra to be able to get it done. If you're saying Cash going to the Rays in this type of a deal, I don't know about that either. But I still think the Cardinals are going to have to add a little bit more to this to get it done, but it's fairly close. Lee is Korean. Yes, he is. He is the Korean outfielder. We'll check in on some of the posted free agents from the KBO and the NPB in our Sunday winter meetings breakdown of all the free agents that are out there, trades talks, all the posting fees, all those things. We'll discuss how those all work. Probably have about a 2 to 3 hour live, probably starting around 8:30, 9 o'clock that night. That way you guys can watch the Hall of Fame announcements. We shall see. Rays don't pay. Exactly. Rays don't send money. They take money. Sarah's idea, though, does have money going from the Cards to the Rays. Um, I just think they'd rather go for prospects than actually have cash come back in. The one thing the Rays always do well is they seem to get the player that you don't really maximize in your system, and they figure out a way to get the best out of them in theirs. So while these two names might work for their roster right now, I think they're going to want to go a little bit younger into that farm system for the Cards. Cardinals do have, or they have had some success in recent years developing some position players, much like the Reds had a lot of success this past season, where they had 6 guys break in all at once and all of them pretty much work out. Cardinals have had some great success with outfielders in recent history. Some Gorman, Walker, O'Neill, Carlson, Nootbaar. The list goes on and on as far as the talent they've been able to develop from within as far as position players. But their starting pitching is starting to get a little thin. Their starting 5 right now is guys over the age of 32 years old. Then they got a lot of depth guys that are not going to break the starting rotation, at least the way it's currently constructed. Those guys will be shifted into the bullpen or be stretched out as long relievers, spot starters once they get to the season. So not a bad trade idea here for Glasnow. I just think that the Rays, while this return is nice and helps them on the major league level, I think they want to go a little bit younger and see if they can, catch lightning in a bottle once again, like they happen to do every single time they make a trade. I think the only trade that they have not won is the one they made with the Texas Rangers for Nathaniel Lowe. Lowe performed well for the Texas Rangers up until the final month of the season this year. Kind of really fell into a hole and never really got out of it. I think this offseason is going to have to figure out how to drive the ball a little bit more. But we're starting to see some positive returns even from that trade with the Wander Franco off-the-field issues. One of the pieces that was traded in that deal, Basabe, was sent over in that deal along with a couple other players. The Rays are starting to feel a little bit of the return from that deal now as well. Yes, they might want to trade a Rosarena. They have a stud to take his place. I just can't think of his name. I just think Rosarena is too big of a part to their lineup right now. He just seems to work with that team. Broke in the postseason, had a great postseason to remember as a rookie, and really has been great ever since. I just don't think it's necessarily this offseason as the time to trade him. So let's just look at the Major League roster here real quick, just to see where Rosarena falls. He's got 3 years left on his deal. You could trade him now. You could get a hefty price tag for him. I just don't think there's a team out there that's willing to pay the price the Rays are going to want in return. And so that's why I think this type of a deal should wait until at least this next off season. So we'll see what happens. Sarah, you'll know better than me as far as the attachment there to Donovan, but it just seems like Donovan's too good of a piece, for the Cardinals to really give up. I know they need some starting pitching, and Glasnow would be the frontline starter, game one, opening day starter for them. I just think Donovan is too big of a piece for them to be able to move off of him. I just think he's too valuable for his versatility there. Paredes was the one guy I mentioned today that was floated by MLB Network as being available. He's got even more time away, or he's got even more service time left on his deal at 4 years left on his deal currently. But his numbers, though, are off the charts. Because of that, he's the better player than Rosarena. He plays a premium position at third base. You can play him at second base as well if you already have third base filled up. Walks more than he strikes out. 30 home runs. Rosarena has a little bit more of a swing and miss to his game, though, which is why I think Paredes is a little bit better of a player. I believe they're also very similar as far as age. Rosarena a little older, 29. Paredes 25. But Paredes, I think, would command a huge haul in a trade, which is why I think if they're going to shop anybody for, hey, you want to be crazy type trade, Paredes might be the guy that gets moved, because look at this surplus value, 64.9. You're talking about getting a team's top 2 prospects, maybe even 3 of their top 5. So if they get something crazy like that, that'd be fantastic for them. Or Rosarena, is about half that trade value with one less year of service. So I think Rosarania just makes a little bit more sense to hold on to. And if somebody really wants to go crazy for Paredes and give him, 85 value back in return, hey, be my guest, as the Rays always end up saying, because somebody always takes that bet and says, hey, I'll take somebody out of this Rays team and make him on, or put him on mine, and he'll be great. Paredes will be great, but the pieces you're going to give up to the Rays always seem to do even better than whatever you get from them. So we'll see what happens. The trade whispers are picking up today. We saw the Cease talks. We talked a little bit about those. The Soto talks. Haven't really mentioned much about Bieber, but the talks there center around the Reds and Cubs being interested in him, along with the Atlanta Braves. Braves make an interesting fit there because his price isn't going to be too high. The teams that are interested in him aren't necessarily going to blow him out of the water as far as an offer. So the Braves might be more realistic by going after a guy like Shane Bieber than Dylan Cease. But that's kind of where the trade market stands right now. What team should we dangle Justin Foscue in front of? John, you're going after my heart there. Justin Foscue was a great first-round draft pick for the Texas Rangers a few years ago before they signed Marcus Semien to that deal. I thought he was the Rangers' first baseman of the future, or second baseman of the future. I thought he would have been on the Major League club in the second half of the year they signed Marcus Semien. So we would have been in year 2 right now of Justin Foscue as the second baseman. Just didn't work out that way. They spent the money for Semien. He's been great since he's got to Texas. But Foscue really has got no home on the Major League roster right now. If they trade Ezekiel Duran, then maybe Justin Foscue is that guy that comes up and plays the middle infield spots, corner outfield every now and again, fills in like Ezekiel Duran did this year, and then he becomes the piece that everybody's talking about as far as trade next year. If they want to trade him as a true second baseman coming out of their minor league system, he's still got great value. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of his. Great hit tool. Rangers have had a lot of difficulty developing talent over the past 5-10 years that's been able to make it to the major leagues, which is why somebody who's so close to making it to the big leagues and getting cut off by having free agents come in, it's just really tough to see him go out the door. But what teams, to answer your question, what teams did I dangle him in front of? Teams that have an opening at second base and need a long-term answer. So, for instance, we talked a little bit yesterday about the possibility of the Red Sox needing some starting pitching. So in order to get something like that done, maybe they need to save a little bit of salary, so they trade some of their relievers. Yesterday we focused on Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin coming to Texas. Maybe Foscue could go there, fill in that second base hole for them. That's basically been an enigma ever since Dustin Pedroia left. That could be one team. Am I expecting that to happen at all? No. I think they're looking at other spots, most notably starting pitcher right now. So you have to look at the talent that's coming back to the Rangers as to what they could get back. So the Pirates, I know they're interested in the reliever David Bednar. I know they're interested in Corbin Burns of the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers, though, need some starting pitching. Pirates need some starting pitching prospects. Foscue is not a starting pitching prospect. So maybe you'd have to route a third team to get a starting pitcher instead of Foscue. But Foscue could go any number of places. They have a lot of prospects at the top of their system. Let's go ahead and pull up the Rangers farm system real quick, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. There's the top 100. Let me go ahead and pull up the top 30. All right. Carter obviously isn't going to go anywhere. Langford isn't going to go anywhere. And by all accounts, it's going to take literally like an ace-type player with multiple years left to control to lure Sebastian Walcott off of this team as well. Brock Porter's the best pitching prospect in the Rangers system. He could be had if they get a short-term ace like a Corbin Burns back. Jack Leiter struggled with his command. He could obviously be had in a trade. But then Justin Foscue's the number 6 guy on this list right here. They've experimented with his flexibility. I'm curious to see, what the Rangers decide to do with him. I think Duran has a little bit more value on the trade market because he's proven the ability to hit every day when he's in the lineup every day. So Foscue still hasn't proven it at the major league level. Christopher Russo, like his ad for High Heat always says, prospects are suspects until they prove themselves in the major leagues. Foscue, while I think he's going to be great and have a great hit tool once he gets to the majors, we've seen players with this type of profile fail in the past. But Justin Foscue fits kind of that Jeff McNeil, Daniel Murphy, Justin Turner type of mold as far as the type of player he could be at the major league level. I would expect Duran to be the more sought after name as far as trade, and so I would expect him to be traded first, and then Foscue could take Duran's role on that team next season. I believe his bat is better than Duran. In fact, when the Rangers made the trade for Joey Gallo, Foscue was still viewed as a better prospect, but Duran had that home run potential and really just took off once the trade was made to Texas. He just continued to hit every single level. Now, his strikeout numbers were high at every single one of those levels, but he still continued to drive the ball and drive it for power, and that's why he made it up to the major leagues first, and why he stuck at the major league level is because that bat did play. We saw the Rangers have multiple walk-off hits, multiple game-winning hits from Ezekiel Duran, and that's why I think his bat is going to be very valuable. I think the Pirates are a good fit there because of the David Bednar connection. Glasnow could be a good fit because if Wander Franco is out for his entire career because of the off-the-field issues that he has going on with the legal system, maybe Duran is your everyday shortstop for the foreseeable future there in Tampa. But Duran's going to be a man in demand. The Rangers are willing to spend in free agency. They don't necessarily have to trade. That's why last year during the offseason, I was shocked they didn't make a move as far as a trade, but they did spend on the free agent market. They spent on Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney. They brought back Martin Perez, that type of player. They didn't really spend much as far as position players. There's not much position players out there this year outside of Shohei that would make an impact on this team. Maybe a J.D. Martinez, maybe a Mitch Garver as well. But outside of that, it's very thin for free agent targets from a position player side that could help the Texas Rangers, aside from bench-type players like Jankowski and Grossman and Pham and players like that. But Duran could be an impact player that they could trade. But we'll see which way Chris Young likes to go. Kamenar is the player to take Arozarena's spot maybe next year, like you said. Just seen his name. Yes. That was the Rays we were just talking about. He is their top prospect. He's kind of a second base, third base guy. I think he would fit in great if they traded Paredes more than traded Arozarena. So I still think Arozarena is going to stay. I think Paredes is going to stay, but I think it's curious that we're at least hearing either of their names, at least right now. Arozarena, like I said, has 3 years left to control. Paredes 4. I think Arozarena stays for at least one more year to kind of help this. He's still on a cheap enough deal that they can afford it, but I think next year is when the salary gets a little too high for them to be able to hold on to, and then we're going to see a market develop like we do this year for Tyler Glasnow for Arozarena. But we'll see. The Rays do always have a quality farm system, no different than right now either. Now you're good. You're all good, Robert. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. We'll be live for you guys again tomorrow night, breaking down all the latest. Hopefully we have a Jordan Montgomery signing. I'm expecting to see at least one more starting pitcher to come off the board. My guess, it's probably going to be Montgomery, maybe another guy in that lower tier, like a Seth Lugo type. The Luis Severino deal is kind of the comp for what I'm expecting to happen over the next day or two. Saturday, before, say, 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon, is probably the last you'll see any transactions until we actually get to the winter meetings on Sunday night. The Hall of Fame announcement, and then usually 2 to 3 hours after the announcement, you'll hear nothing but Hall of Fame, congratulations, who was left off, who's on next year's ballot, and then like a switch, the rumors will turn on, the floodgates will open, signings will happen, trade talks will be bursting at the seams. So if you guys are unfamiliar with winter meetings, buckle up. It's going to be a fun week. I request off from work for this week every single year just to enjoy it. I mean, just getting to sit in front of the TV, watch MLB Network, and just hear all the rumors flying left, right, and center is worth it. It's worth get your popcorn ready, as Terrell Owens would say. It's worth the price of admission. It's fantastic. I know baseball is great to watch during the season, obviously, for the play on the field, but seeing where players are going to go, trades that are happening, how much they sign for, what your team is going to look like, that's really where the bones are made for your team the next year, and so that's why I really enjoy the winter meetings. It's a fantastic time to be a baseball fan. One of my dreams is to actually attend the winter meetings, hopefully next year, if we get this thing up big enough. maybe we can actually be at the winter meetings and broadcast from the hotel wherever they're going to be. But we shall see. Should be a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Make sure you guys hit that heart, hit that confetti, the 100% in the chat. Really does help us out. Thank you guys for driving the viewership up tonight. We got up to about 20 viewers for a little bit there. Been consistently around 15 to 17. Really appreciate that. And hopefully we have some more transactions to discuss tomorrow. And hopefully we start to see some of the biggest trades start to percolate around Cease, Soto, Bieber, Glasnow, Burns, Adames, and on and on and on the list goes. Ohtani, like I said, the rumors around the industry right now expect him to sign around the winter meetings, maybe even at the winter meetings. So we'll see what happens there. Keep your eyes peeled for some of those rumors as we get closer. Literally nothing is coming out of the teams right now as far as their pursuit for Shohei, and nothing is coming out from the agent. But the whispers around the industry are that that we might be getting closer to an agreement than, say, a week or two ago. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but I am saying at least there's a feeling that momentum might be gathering for a deal to happen at the winter meeting. So I don't think Ohtani wants this to stretch on to Christmas. I don't even think he wants it to stretch on past next week. So I'm expecting some type of deal to happen before the close of business on Wednesday. So make sure you join us live all week for the winter meetings next week. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow.